Alphard, capital of the Marian hegemony. June 1630, 48. All right, lads, places to be. Sean O'Reilly's voice echoed like thunder through the domed halls and passageways of the palace. He clapped his bare paw-like hands, adding whip-crack lighting to the thunder as he hurried down a wide set of stairs, a spring in his step from adrenaline. All around him, people dashed to and fro, some in uniform, some in plain fatigues, but all of them armed. It wasn't the sort of chaotic bustle associated with panic, but one of concerted activity following a plan. His plan. Halfway down the wide marble stairs that had a pair on the other side of the mosaic-floored and painted glass domed entry hall, he came face to face with his father's larger-than-life portrait. And even though he had every intention to hurry on, he stopped. He didn't look a lot like his father. The thought came unbidden to him, but not unexpected. It was a real painting, oil on canvas, life-sized. The artist had taken great pains to do it in the sort of subdued yet pompous neo-realist Lyran style of the late 28th century that people with more money than taste liked to spend money on. His father hadn't cared. He'd only cared that it was something the patricians in the Senate could relate to and make him look good in the never-ending squabble for political support from one faction or another. Which it did, Sean conceded sourly. Where Caesar Marius O'Reilly, third ruler of the Marian hegemony, was polished marble, Sean was rough-hewn granite. His face was broader, his jaws square, his nose flatter, his hair darker. Only his eyes and the part of his skull surrounding them came after his father. That, and his smile. Maybe the lack of similarity had played whatever tiny part in their alienation. Maybe it was because he came more after his mother. Maybe they could have both walked a different path, not opposite, but side by side. He exhaled deeply and his shoulders sagged. Maybe pigs could fly too. One way or another, when the day was over, none of that would matter any longer. Leading his steps back down towards the grand mosaic of the hall, he spotted one soldier ascending the stairwell towards him, his laser carbine shouldered, going against the flow of the majority. He recognized the man's face and quickly put a name to it. Opsio Tibbins. The soldier, his senior by maybe 2 decades and a grizzled veteran of plenty of missions and raids, some of which the heir to Caesar himself had commanded, stopped at a respectful distance and came to attention. If the 20-plus kilograms of gear slowed him down or burdened him, he hid it well. What is it? The Palash grounds are secured, sir. Leaving behind the 4th to keep it that way. VTOLs are ready. Tibbins pointed towards the brass-plated 15-foot-high doors leading outside. Resistance? Unwanted, his eyes flashed back to his father's painting. In his mind, he had played through this whole day hundreds, thousands of times. And still, to him, his voice sounded almost too casual for the occasion. Tibbins glanced a look back down the hallways leading perpendicular to the entry hall and gave Sean a slight shrug. Had to subdue some overzealous members of the Praetorian Guard, but most have fallen in line. Minimal casualties. A few wounded on our side, a few dead on theirs. The Pompey-born man's native drawl was as close as humanly possible to talking with your mouth full of soggy oatmeal. Nigh a quarter of the troops Sean had gathered today hailed from that core world of the hegemony, and he had commanded them personally after his father had replaced him as head of the colonization efforts in lieu of his uncovered embezzlement and corruption. He understood Tibbins perfectly well. Before the day's over, they'll all be on our side, Opsio, he gently corrected the man. Some of them just don't know it yet. Some may need a bit more convincing than others. He flashed a sharkish smile. Much of the First Legion had his back, and the Praetorian Guard had always been more for show than for actual combat. That some of them had actually tried to resist? Credit where credit was due. Noticing Tibbins still stood at his side, he raised an eyebrow. Anything else? Aye, sir. Tribune Calestis is online too. The veteran produced a rugged black rubber-coated radio from one of his uniform's many pockets and handed it to Sean, who grabbed it eagerly. Talk to me, Genie. Whenever I do that, you try to hit on me, came the sardonic answer in a voice that spoke of too many cigarettes and a decent helping of bourbon. Janina Genie Caleste commanded 3 armored regiments and had secured him the loyalties of the patrician voting bloc her father headed. That in turn had given him access to house levies and mercenaries, both of which came in extremely useful right now. She was also one of only a handful of women who had never fallen to his charms or the temptations of a man with his influence, despite his repeated efforts. For that, he respected her even more than for her combat expertise and political connections. She was one of his very few true friends, and as such, she got a certain degree of leeway in how she could address him. I'm not much for flirting on the radio. Believe it or not, but right now I'd be completely satisfied with a short sit-rep on your side, he chuckled. Can do, boss. CENTCOM's secure communications to and from the orbitals as well as every major broadcast system are under our control. The stage is set for the main event. You're good to go. Sean closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling tension falling off his shoulders that he hadn't even known to be there. Thanks, Jeannie. I owe you one, he said quietly. Oh, don't worry. I'll remind you of that. There was a chuckle on the other end of the line. Now go and make history. We've got your back. Calesti's out. For a moment he just stared at the now silent radio before handing it back to Tibbins. The VTOLs are waiting, Sher. Are you ready? Sean O'Reilly gave one parting glance to his father's portrait. Alea iacta est. The dice had fallen. A small voice in the back of his head wondered what his father really thought about him. If there was still the love of a father for a son, he'd never know now. Not after today. Tearing his eyes loose, he motioned Tibbins to lead the way. Yeah, I'm ready. Get the troops airborne. Time to show the Senate their new Caesar. And that, for them, fealty would not be optional.